following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Let me just say, after Vito distorting the belt, they're proclaiming the real world champion. I'm going to tell you all, with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life. When you walk around this world and you tell everybody you're number one, the only way you get to stay number one is to be number one.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome May the 5th. Hope everybody had a great May the 4th, and I hope the 4th was with you. Yours truly, Captain Lou. Indeed, it is a Friday, and we welcome you to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube, and also we are live courtesy, powered up by Belly Up Sports. Check out our website, bellyupsports.com, for a complete list of podcasts that we have. We have a great group of podcasters covering all the sports you can imagine, anywhere from horse racing with the Kentucky Derby coming tomorrow to the major sports. Of course, we've got soccer, pro wrestling with the big pay-per-view coming up tomorrow, Backlash on WWE. So check us out, bellyupsports.com, for a complete list of podcasts, including the Sports Stove podcast. And we're going to be joined by the host of the Sports Stove podcast, Vince Stover, at about 10:15 this morning, as we're going to talk Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers, Major League Baseball, you name it. We'll get his take on Mike Budenholzer getting fired by the Bucs yesterday. So we got a lot to talk about here. It's pretty much a free-for-all Friday here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So again, we want to take a minute to say welcome aboard here on this Friday, May the 5th. Getting some great weather here in Michigan. It's going to be about 70 degrees. Wow. That means it's time to get out on the golf course. And make sure when you go out on the golf course, you are ready and looking sharp. Go to MahlerBros.com, MahlerBros.com. And while you're there, hit the promo code BELLYUP for 15% off your purchase. They've got a great array of sport polos to make you look good. And if you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. And that's all that counts when you're on the golf course, right? So check out MahlerBros.com. And right on the bottom of the screen, as it says, use the promo code BELLYUP for 15% off your next purchase right there on MahlerBros.com. Like I mentioned, we got a lot to talk about here today. Follow us on Twitter, by the way, at Real Captain Lou, or our Facebook page, the Captain Lou Extravaganza, or make sure you follow us on my personal page, that is Louis Gamlin, or send me a note on email, or via email, I guess. That is sweetlou1965 at yahoo.com. And we'll answer all the emails as we always do, good or bad. You know, it don't bother me if it's good or bad. That's the only way we can grow. Criticism or whatever, we have a blast talking back and forth on email as well as Twitter and on Facebook. So Friday, May the 5th, as I mentioned, a lot going on in the world of sports. Stanley Cup Playoffs round 2 is underway right now in the Stanley Cup. And last night we had a couple of games. The home teams, one was victorious and one was not. Both came in trailing 1-0, and it's amazing. We talk about Toronto looking for a bounce-back game in Game 1, or after Game 1, rather. And, boy, it started out pretty hot for them in Game 2. 2 goals in the first 5 minutes, one on the power play. O'Reilly with that blast. I mean, you couldn't set up that power play any better for Toronto in Game 2 in that opening period. They're up 2-0, and I'm thinking, all right, here we go. Maple Leaf fans, you can take a deep breath. You got a shot at it. You know, you got a chance to even up the series, go down to Florida, maybe steal one. You got the home ice advantage coming back for Game 5 in Toronto. Well, somebody forgot to tell the Florida Panthers that. Trailing 2-1. They got that goal near the end of the second period or first period. They're down 2-1. So everybody's thinking, all right, they can hold it off. Florida comes out in 1 minute and 6 seconds. They score 2 goals. They take the lead. And the crazy thing about it, And I want to use the term that Stu Grimson on the NHL Network said. I watched him earlier. Lackadaisical. And I'm just amazed by it. These guys, I understand you can't go 60 minutes, full bore, 110%. But wow, I mean, the way they illustrated it just made so much sense. The lackadaisical play by the Toronto Maple Leafs in that second period. And then you could see it. You could see the body language. All of a sudden, they're down 3-2 on 2 turnovers that just mind-boggling the way they made them. And all of a sudden, the Maple Leafs are down 3-2. And you could they were taken right out of their game. And they never recovered. The crowd was silent. I mean, now granted, they had a couple of pipe shots in the second period where, Tavares just couldn't catch a break. And I get it. Bobrovsky, he's got, it's like he's got a horseshoe in his back pocket. But hey, momentum's a crazy thing, especially in these playoffs this year. Goaltending has not been, it's not been the strong point. It's not been the highlight. There's been spurts of it. But I'll tell you, Bobrovsky has been able to do what he's had to. Samsonov, I don't think he played that bad of a game. That third goal wasn't his fault. But wow, now you're looking at a Toronto series that is going to go back to Florida for Game 3. They're down 2-0. Unbelievable. They got to win 5 to win this one. And that means they've got to win at least they got to win a couple down in Florida, and it's over. So I don't know what the answer is now. Obviously, in these Stanley Cup playoffs, it's been proven home ice doesn't really give you that much advantage. So they've got that going for them. But I look at Game 2, and I think last night I thought, boy, after those first 6 minutes, I thought, boy, Toronto is really. They're there to stay. They're going to make it back into the series. They're going to come back and even it up at 1 apiece. But then they laid an egg in that second period. And it's a game of momentum. And, we've talked about it in other scenarios. You can't, you can't take a period off. And that's what Toronto did. And all of a sudden, boom, they're down 2-0. And it's going to be tough sledding. It's going to take an awful lot to win 4 out of 5. And you got to play 3 of those games away from Toronto. And as we mentioned, I know home ice isn't all that big of a deal right now, but I mean, they've got a lot to come back from now, down 2-0. And in the other game last night, Dallas was able to even up the series against Seattle. That was a great game. And Joe Pavelski kept going. He's got a goal. He got a goal on the power play in the second period. Now he's got 5 goals in 2 games in round 2. So that's going to be interesting to see how that one shapes out. But you got to love the crack and the effort they're giving. And now they get to go back for 2 games. They got the split in Dallas. So they're up now, or it's all even at 1 apiece. Game 3 coming up there, I believe, on Sunday. And so that home crowd, they're on an improbable run. They're kind of the Cinderella story, but they got a legitimate shot. Now, Dallas, I've liked them. What really has impressed me with them throughout the playoff is their defensive play. I mean, in the opening round, it was evident. And now they had a little bit of a lapse in Game 1. Seattle just came at them in that Game 1 game. That was amazing. The foot to the throttle the whole game, especially in that first period, scoring 4 goals and hanging on to win. Quite impressive. But now Dallas has kind of caught their breath. Momentum, can they carry it into Game 3 coming up tomorrow or Saturday? We'll have to wait and see. One game coming up tonight. It's the Hurricanes and the Devils. Now the big question for the Hurricanes, for the Devils. Who do they start in net tonight? Do they go back to Schmid? I mean, he got pulled after giving up 3 goals. Is Vanacek going to be in goal tonight for the Devils? As they look to try to salvage 1 down in Carolina and come back to possibly make it a series. If they go down 2-0, it's going to be awful difficult to come back. We just talked about it with Toronto. That would mean they'd have to win 4 out of the next 5. And I don't know if I don't know how well that's going to bode for New Jersey. But Carolina, here's a team, it's funny is This is kind of almost the forgotten series in the NHL. Carolina, they just continue to go under the radar. They took care of business against the Islanders. Yeah, they were pushed to 6 games, but everybody thought that was going to be the series maybe where the upset was going to prevail, where the Islanders, with their pedigree, so to speak, would come in and they would manhandle Carolina. But one of the things that I like about Carolina is their coaching, Rod Brindamore. Yeah, he's a Michigan State guy just from right outside my neighborhood here. He's won a Stanley Cup as a player. He knows what it takes to win. He's got these guys playing hard, and they're believing. And I just like the total makeup of that team. I think they're going to give New Jersey all they can handle tonight and the rest of the series. They bent a little bit against the Islanders, but they didn't break. And I think that's going to be the mentality that they have going forward here in this series against New Jersey. But game 2's tonight. That's a pivotal game, obviously. You could call it a must-win, but really, if you think about it, it's almost a must-win for Carolina too, because if they can get this one, they go up 2-0. They're going on the road for 2 games. They've got a stranglehold on it, and that's the thing. I think that was the mentality with the 76ers in the NBA in round 2 when they brought Embiid back. A lot of folks were upset that he came in early, thought maybe he should sit out and wait till game 3. You get a 1-0 lead, and you got a chance to get that second game to really get control of the series. That is momentum is so big, and I think it's true here. And also, I'd be remiss without talking about game 1 of the Edmonton game against Vegas. Well, I got to tell you, first of all, I would love to be able to experience a pregame ritual like there was in Vegas the other night. I'm sitting in bed watching it, and I got chills, man. I mean, the Vegas fans are blessed. I think they're spoiled with what they do for each game, man. That was incredible. And then the fireworks during the game, that is setting up to be one hell of a series. Can't wait for game 2. Draisaitl had himself a night, didn't he? 4 goals, including the bank shot. But Vegas wasn't intimidated. They come in waves. And I just, what amazes me about Vegas is they've been doing it since the first puck drop, the opening game of their existence. Now, they like to calling themselves hockey town, so to speak. Well, me being a Detroit Red Wings guy, obviously I'm going to be biased and saying, no, they're not hockey town, but they've got a legitimate shot this year to lay claim to that. And now, again, here's another game 2 scenario coming up for them. Can they keep flexing their muscle? Can the goaltending, that's going to be the question mark on both sides. They've used 5 goalies this year, Vegas has. Now they settled in. Is Skinner going to be able to rebound and play a decent game tonight? If Edmonton can get the split, they'll get a little bit of momentum coming back in to, for game 5 or for game 3 when it goes up to Edmonton. We'll have to wait and see. So kind of a quick rundown on the NHL playoffs. We're going to kind of step aside away from the NHL. We'll come back to then towards the end. Unfortunately, a former Red Wing, we found out yesterday, passed away. Peter Klima, 58 years old, taken too young. And we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. But we're going to go to our guest here momentarily from the Sports Stove podcast. First, I want to tell you a little bit about Mahler Bros Golf. Mahler Bros Golf is one of our sponsors here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza, also on the Belly Up Sports Network and podcast. And if you're like me, you want to look good on the golf course because but a lot of times it comes at the expense of feeling good. Well, you don't have to worry about that. And when you're golfing, the sun's beating down, you want to take that shirt off. You can't do it on the golf course. Well, you're not supposed to anyways. But here's the answer. Mahler Bros Golf has polos that'll make you look good and they'll make you feel good. And as the old saying goes, you look good, you feel good. Feel good, you play good. With their lightweight and stretchy material that hugs your body, you can feel good while looking just as good. Their polos are guaranteed to make it look better, but now it's up to you to golf better. Check out Mahler Bros Golf. That's MAHLERBORS.com. And when you get on the site, make sure you use the code BELLYUP. It's right there at the bottom of the screen at MahlerBros.com for 15% off your purchase. They also have T-shirts, hats, tumblers, so much more. You could choose the design of the shirt you want. If you want a polo that's loud, that's great. They'll see you coming down the 6th hole on that par 5 when you're ready to get on in 2. Or if you're like me, a little more conservative, you want the subtle look. Either one is all right. That's Mahler Bros Golf, MAHLERBORS.com. And when you're on the website, you're getting ready to make that purchase, make sure you use the promo code BELLYUP for 15% off your purchase. That's MahlerBros.com. Well, hey, let's get to our guest. He's kind enough to join us here on a Friday morning, taking time out of his busy day. Let's welcome in Vince Stover, host of the Sports Stove podcast, one of our podcasts here on Belly Up Sports. Vince, thanks for taking time out today. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Hope you can hear me okay. I'm not in my normal spot, so.
We can hear you just fine. We appreciate you coming on. Really do. Let's get right into it. I know you're a Packers guy. Green Bay, obviously, they've been in the news right before the draft. The big trade was made. It's been about a week and a half now. The dust has settled a little bit. What's the temperature of the Packer fans right now as they've come to the realization they no longer have Aaron Rodgers?
I think the Brett Favre saga prepared us for the Aaron Rodgers drama. This one went so much smoother than Brett Favre's did. And so we were able to I think this one just was handled better as a whole. And it came to that point where overall Packer fans were ready to move on from Aaron. They didn't feel like he had that full buy-in that we wanted to see. And as much as and listen, we love Aaron. We were so excited for the years we had to cheer him on and those kinds of things. There's very little animosity against Aaron leaving Green Bay and things like that. And I think, though, it was at the point where everybody was just ready. Hey, let's move forward. Let's see what Jordan Love has. Obviously, the front office loved him. They traded up to get him. So he better be good. But at the same time, it was just time. It was one of those deals where, you get through it all and just like, you know what, it's time to move on. It's time to get on to something different. And I think there's going to be concern as we get closer to the season about, do we have enough on the team to be competitive this year? The future is bright. There's no doubt about that. The question is can we make a playoff run this year? Super Bowl is lofty. Playoffs, though, I mean, come on, we're still playing the Bears, the Lions, and the Vikings. So playoffs is still a possibility. I think that's what we're shooting for. And I think overall, people are excited about what's ahead and not really sad that Aaron's gone, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And here's the question that I have with not just Packer fans, but any team in general. I mean, you look at Budenholzer getting fired yesterday by the Bucs. I mean, it's what you've done for me lately, Yeah. And I think what my question is, let's say, we both know what, Aaron Rodgers didn't exactly set the world on fire his first year, but boy, after that, the rest is history. Yeah. Let's say the Packers, just for kicks and giggles, they go 8-9, and everybody, the pressure is going to be on Love. Are they going to be patient enough to give him that 2 or 3 year opportunity to get, if they don't make the playoffs this year? I'm with you. This is not like Jordan Love is getting thrown into the AFC where you've got, let's face it, a dozen quarterbacks that are so far superior. I mean, I think Green Bay, like you said, I love what they did in the draft. I've watched Jaden Reed play here at Michigan State. That dude, he's a stud. I think that's a huge pickup for you guys in the second round. But what do you think will be the patience level for not just the Packer fans, but like management in general?
Yeah, I think Jordan Love and LaFleur are both on a 2-year test.
Okay.
I think that they get this year kind of, for the most part, whatever happens this year, it won't matter. As far as if they don't do well. Now, I mean, if they don't win any games, then that's one thing, but that's not the expectation. I think they go 6, 7, 8, even 9 wins this year, which I know is a broad spectrum in a 17-game season. But this year's kind of, all right, let's get everything going, and then the next season will be the one that is going to depend whether or not Jordan Love is long-term in Green Bay, whether or not LaFleur sticks around much longer in Green Bay. They've got 2 years to prove to management that they can do what they're being paid to do.
Well, like I said, I agree with you with what Green Bay, they're a young team, but they got talent. I mean, the running back situation to me is solid. The only thing that I worry about with the Packers, and maybe you can help me out with it, is kind of the line play, maybe on the offensive side of the ball. It's looking a little old. Bakhtiari's been great for you guys, but he's on his last legs, no pun intended. And I that's my only concern for the Packers, really, is in the interior.
Well, I'd say there's three concerns. Offensive line is one, and it's probably the lowest tiered of concern. There's confidence in the guys in-house. They drafted a guy last year, Zach Tom, and he got thrown into the fire, and he played really well. He's not a name that most people know, but he's there, and right now he's the sixth lineman, so he's a backup, and so that gives some confidence on the line. If Bakhtiari's healthy, even close to healthy, then that makes the line so much better. And so I think the line overall, there's not a lot of concern within the Packers. I thought they would draft a guy. I thought they drafted a guy in the first round. Honestly, I mean, they got there and the big guy from Georgia was sitting there. I thought, wow, okay, they're going to go out and get this tackle of the future, and they didn't. So there's a little bit of concern, but not major concern. Veteran wide receivers to me is a massive concern. They got a ton of young guys that are, I think, really good, but they don't have any veteran presence in the locker room at wide receiver right now. So I assume they'll add somebody. I even mentioned on Wednesday night on my show that Tyler Lockett from Seattle is a guy they talked about a lot last year. If they could acquire Tyler Lockett, I mean, my goodness, that would be incredible. But I think the biggest concern is still defense. There's been zero consistency on defense. Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator, is not loved by fans. He had good moments and bad moments, but they've got talent on that defense, yet we've not seen any consistency. And we talk about young quarterback, young offensive weapons. You need the defense to play incredible. And to me, that's the biggest concern. I'd put wide receivers next, and then after that would put offensive line.
How does Joe Barry still have a job?
That's a great question. And when Jim Leonard didn't get the job in Wisconsin, the natural thing was, hey, bring him in, defensive coordinator, be a great fit. And they didn't. And, I'm the kind of guy who says, okay, I'm going to trust for another year that they know what they're doing. But I'm only going to give them one more year. And after that, I thought I love Dom Capers. I think he's a great guy. But they kept him too long. They let him struggle for too long on the defense, and they finally moved on from him. Some things got better. Joe Barry's the same way. He showed signs of being able to do things. And again, Rashawn Gary's been injured off and on, and that hurts because Rashawn Gary's a phenomenal football player. But they failed in other areas too, and they got some holes still. Safety's a hole unless they re-sign Amos. They got some holes back there. So Joe Barry's got an uphill climb this year.
We're joined by Vince Stover. You can catch him on the Sports Stove podcast, one of our podcasts here in the family of Belly Up Sports. Gracious with his time here this morning on this Friday. Vince, one more question, Packer related, and that's Reggie Cobb. Two parts on this question. Now, he's going to the Jets. From what everybody says is he's a good locker room guy. He's a good veteran presence, and I could see that. And my second half of that question with the Jets, now that Rodgers is there, what in your mind is a reasonable expectation for the Jets? I know you've probably been asked this question. I mean, you get the New York media, they're fawning over Aaron Rodgers, and that's great. He's saying all the right things, but they've got a good team. They had a decent team, above average team before he got there. What's your expectation level? Super Bowl, making the playoffs, AFC title game. What do you think?
So, I mean, playoffs is a must. That's a must. Yeah. Super Bowl, again, only one team from the conference makes it. And you got Joe Burrow and the Bengals. You got Josh Allen and the Bills. You got Mahomes, who's always going to be there, and the Chiefs. And then you got Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars, who are not there yet, but they're dangerous. And so you throw Aaron Rodgers into the mix. And you bring up Randall Cobb, and so let me say this about Randall Cobb. First of all, I grew up in Tennessee, close to where he played high school, so I knew about him in high school. I live in Lexington now, where he went to college. And then I've been a Packer fan my whole life. So me and Randall Cobb we've never met, but we go a long way. And he is an awesome locker room presence. What can he give you on the field? Probably not a whole lot these days. And here's my fear for Jets fans. Aaron Rodgers has Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb on his team now. And I would not be shocked if Mercedes Lewis ends up there before it's all said and done. He's got a phenomenal receiver in Garrett Wilson. Is he going to throw it to him? Or is he going to go back to his security blankets? And Rodgers, as much as he's one of the best talents to ever play the game, and as much as I cheered him on for so long, he hurt himself and he hurt the team throughout the years by not taking what was there as opposed to taking what he wanted to do. And you can watch the video back the last 3 years under LaFleur where Rodgers had a guy wide open, didn't throw him the ball because he thought he could get more out of something else. It ends up being incomplete or a sack. And you're sitting there going, throw the ball. That's my concern for Jets fans, especially with him having these comfort blankets there with them, security blankets with them. Garrett Wilson's a great receiver. He's going to get catches and all those sorts of things. But Rodgers likes what he likes. And, but he's out to prove something. And when he's out to prove something, he's dangerous. Remember when they drafted Jordan Love, dude showed up. So, I think Super Bowl is definitely a possibility. I think success for the Jets this year is AFC Championship game. And I won't say Super Bowl just because, man, that's so hard to get to. And he's not only been there once. So, I would say AFC Championship game is a reasonable expectation for Jets fans.
Well, it's going to be fun to watch. Of course, we get to sit back from afar, if you will, and see how the Jets do. They're going to be tabloid material every day. It's going to, they're going to be at the beck and call, whatever Rodgers does, whatever he says. It's going to be interesting to see how things go when he's down as well as when he's up. Vince, you say you're an MLB guy. That's great to hear. I want to talk some baseball with you. First, we see the fast start of the Pittsburgh Pirates. I know they're starting to come back to earth a little bit. Milwaukee's nipping at their heels now. It's fun to watch them start like that. I know they ran into the buzzsaw that is Tampa this week and got beaten by them. It's fun to see the Pirates go. I don't know how long they can keep it up.
That's it, right? I talked about this on Wednesday too with my dad. They're the Pirates. Their best players out. How are they doing this? And now it helps that St. Louis has been horrible this year. Oh God, so all you're really fighting right now is Milwaukee. And Milwaukee and Pittsburgh are both on 4-game losing streaks. Chicago's on a 3-game losing streak. St. Louis is on a 6-game losing streak. And then you've got Cincinnati on only a 1-game losing streak. So the whole division is fighting to find their legs right now. Milwaukee's the deepest team and the best team, I think, currently. St. Louis is still, to me, the scariest team because if they get going, they've got offensive power. Pittsburgh, though, what they're doing is great. It's fun to see. I'm a Brewers fan, so I don't want to see Pittsburgh succeed. But man, what a beautiful ballpark! What a great town to have stinky baseball for so many years now. It's good to see some success there. And how long can it last, though? That's what you asked. All-Star break? I don't know. I don't think it's going to last all season.
I want to ask you a question about my Tigers. They had fun with the Mets this week, pummeled them 3 straight, got the sweep. Well, they pummeled Scherzer. They didn't pummel Verlander. He gave up those back-to-back jacks in the first inning. Then he was the Scherzer or the Verlander of old. He settled in and was on command. Already, I'm reading stuff this morning, and I just shake my head. Eduardo Rodriguez is pitching like with guns a-blazing. He's had 3 great starts back-to-back-to-back. He had flirted with a perfect game. Now I'm reading this morning, maybe Detroit should trade him while they get pieces. While he's hot. I hate that mentality. I've always hated it. I don't want to wait till next year or 2025. Unfortunately, as a Tiger fan, we've been doing that now for 7-8 years. I like what they're doing, but obviously, what do you think on mentality like that?
I hate it too. I've never understood with Major League Baseball when a team who's not good has a great player or a really good player, and their first reaction is let's trade them. Now I know you get pieces, and if you can add 3 or 4 minor league pieces that could develop, and you hit on half of those, then you're making off well. But baseball for so long has just said, hey, we got somebody good. All right, let's trade them. Whatever happened to building around them? And do it. I mean, we're seeing it with the Angels and Shohei. Are they going to trade them? Are they going to keep them? They seem to be wanting to keep them. I mean, maybe you could trade Rodriguez for Shohei. You'd probably be okay with that.
My God, I'd do that in a heartbeat.
But yeah, I don't like it. Now I think you have to be realistic and look at your roster and figure out, do we have any chance? And can we build around what we have? Can we get rid of some minor league guys or trade other guys on the roster to build around the good guys that we have? If you have zero shot of that, it makes sense to unload and build up pieces. But you said, this is several years in the making for Detroit, and they're at that point now where they've got to start putting a positive product on the field versus maybe next year. And they have plenty of holes on this roster right now, but they're in a weak division, and the opportunity. I mean, when they score runs, they're winning games. The pitching outside of the one guy has not been awesome, and they've allowed a fair amount of runs and things like that too. So they've got to score runs to win. Can they continue to do that? Again, weak division helps them out a lot, but I hate that mentality of, hey, we got somebody good, let's trade them.
Well, they're 2-12 against. I think it's 2-12 against the AL East and 11-5 against everybody else, and they don't have to play anybody out of the American League East until July. So they have St. Louis for 3. They're going down there, and I guess Wainwright's making his debut tomorrow against the Tigers. And I know that we have a little bit of recent history with the Cardinals after 2006. So it wouldn't break my heart if Detroit could keep it going. Last question for baseball for you is the name escapes me of the pitcher for Tampa yesterday that he got checked for foreign substances. In his glove hand, they made him take his wedding ring off, his rubber ring off, or else they were going to eject him. Now, we saw what happened with Scherzer with the rosin. He got suspended 10 games. Is this getting out of hand to you, Vince, with all this that's going on? I don't know. I mean, to me, it looks like it is. It's a bad look, but I don't know. What's your take on that?
So I've been in a position for much of my life to enforce rules. And one thing that I've learned is you want to have enforceable rules. The problem is when you have a rule that doesn't make sense, are you able to admit it and change? And I understand why they check the pitcher's hands, but you said it, it's getting out of hand. Zach Eflin is the guy in Tampa. And I mean, what's the purpose of having sticky stuff on your hands? We know what it is. It increases your spin rate. It does other things. It helps your grip, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so if you're checking a pitcher, that's what you're checking for. Does he have an advantage? Is it creating an advantage? And I don't see how a wedding ring can create an advantage, on a baseball game. And I don't understand, everything around it. I mean, if he had stuff on his ring, if his ring had a sticky substance, had a spider tack or something like that on it, then clearly, hey, it needs to go. But I'm telling you, baseball, I love baseball. I love watching baseball. I think radio baseball is the best baseball. I love listening to Bob Uecker on the radio. But baseball is stuck in this mentality of we're always right. And rarely are they right. I mean, they mess up so often. They do a horrible job of promoting the sport. They do a horrible job of taking advantage of opportunities to promote certain players. And this kind of stuff just makes people, the casual fan, makes them go, I don't need to do this. I'll go watch something else. And I hate it. I think it's silly. I've talked with baseball players about going to the computerized umpire, the balls and strikes call. Yeah. And I talked to a guy several years ago now, but he played for the Giants for a short time, spent a lot of time in the minors. And he said, listen, an automated ump would have saved my career. He said, I had these umpires who were so inconsistent that I get called strikes when they're balls, and then I get sent down because I struck out. He said having consistency at that level, and he said it would save people's careers. And I've always thought about that. And now I watch Major League Baseball and see these umpires with everything from checking the pitchers to balls and strikes, and replays helped with some of the things, but baseball fails over and over again. They just need to get it right for once.
As funny as I remember coaching my son, it's been about 13 years ago, and it was so bad, the balls and strikes. I went to the umpire in between innings. I said, "What's your strike zone?" He said, "Belt to the ankles." I said, "When did that change?" And the guy was honest. He was a younger guy, and he said, "Well, it's what it is on TV." And I said, "Well, check your rule book after the game, my friend, and you'll find out." And he came up to me the next game, and he's like, "Wow, Lou," he said, "you were right. Man, I feel bad." I said, "It's all good." What do you think of the pitch clock?
I love it. It's made baseball better, I think. As much as I love baseball, I'm not to the guy that says you can't make changes. I like the extra base runner and extra innings. A lot of people
Do you
don't.
really?
I do.
Wow,
I
you're
love
the first one I've talked to that likes it. Wow, that's
it.
awesome.
Yeah, I love it, man. I think it's smart. Even if you started him on first base, I don't mind. But I think having a runner on base, it gives the fans something a little bit more exciting to watch. And some people love the strikeout and love the pitcher, and I do too. But I like a little excitement, so I like it. But the pitch clock's been fun. It has sped it up. I'll tell you, watching a baseball game to me is a lot easier, and I love watching baseball. It's a lot easier with pitch clock.
I agree. It was 2 hours and 10 minutes yesterday for the Tigers against the Mets in that game with Verlander and Rodriguez. No, I know they were two dynamite pitchers, but wow, you get a game under 3 hours there. Vince, this has been great. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and when you're on and what you guys do.
Yeah, so right now I've got 3 episodes a week, most weeks. I didn't have a third one this week, but Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, I go live, the Sports Stove Fantasy Baseball Show. Kevin Wilson joins me almost every week for that show, and we talk all things fantasy sports, all things Major League Baseball. Then the audio is available wherever you get your podcasts. Wednesday night, I go live at 8 o'clock at night. My dad joins me for that show, and we just talk all things general sports, a lot of focus on baseball and football, but we talk a little bit about everything. And then my third episode is an audio only. I do the Sports Stove Local Hour, and it's Eastern Kentucky University sports. So I live down in Richmond, Kentucky, and cover football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball. We talk to student athletes every week. Coaches come on. We've had the athletic director on several times too. And the program's doing great. They're part of the ASUN conference, and they're just they're winning tournaments. They're doing good things. So we cover them, and the athletes are great to get on, man. I tell you what, it's nothing more fun than talking to these young men and women and hearing their stories and getting just insight on the game. I never played anything competitively. I do coach. I coach high school basketball, and I love sports. And so, I mean, my dad named me after Vince Lombardi. So, I mean, I had to love sports to a degree. And so it's a blast, man. We talk sports all the time. Have so much fun with it. I write some articles for bellyupsports.com as well. And I stay relatively busy.
Well, I appreciate you taking time out this morning. This has been an absolute treat. Would love to have you on again sometime. Keep up the great work, eh? And again, thanks for coming on.
Hey, Lou, thank you so much, man. Love the show. You're doing a great job as well. Glad to be a part of the Belly Up Network with you. And have a good rest of your weekend.
All right, you too, buddy. Thank you. That's Vince Stover from the Sports Stove podcast. He, like you said, joins us on the network 3 days a week. He's got a lot of great stuff going on. Check out his articles too on bellyupsports.com, along with everybody else. The writers do a fantastic job, and they cover all the sports. They give you all their insight and their opinions, and it's a great, great mix of guys and gals doing a lot of awesome work here on Belly Up Sports. Great conversation with Vince. If you didn't catch it, all of it, it will be downloaded on podcast form, audio through Spotify and all the networks that we do here with Belly Up Sports. I'll have that downloaded later on this afternoon. I want to thank Vince Stover for taking time out to be with us here on this Friday. It is a free-for-all Friday, if you will. We talked a little hockey, talked a little football with Vince, Major League Baseball. We've got round 2 of the NBA playoffs they've got a full head of steam coming up. And we talked about the Lakers earlier on Wednesday. We touched on it a little bit. Lakers and Warriors, they lived up to the hype in game 1, of course, up in Golden State, up in Oakland. Game 2 was last night. And the Lakers, they were going for the jugular. We talked about it earlier in the show with the opportunity for the Lakers to get a 2-0 lead going home to Los Angeles for game 3 tomorrow night. But Golden State and Klay Thompson they had something to say about it. 8 3-pointers for Klay Thompson. He led the way for Golden State to even up the series at 1 apiece. Great game, great bounce back game for them. They go down to LA now for game 3 tomorrow night, as I mentioned. And here's the question that I have. Now, there's a lot. I don't follow the NBA as much as I used to. I watched the game last night for a while. It was a great back and forth. Now, for the casual fan like me, I want to say maybe a little more than casual, but is this going to be the marquee series of all the playoffs or the NBA? And is that going to hurt the NBA once this is over as far as their playoffs go? Now, I know you got the Knicks. They're in the mega market. They're in New York, the Mecca, whatever you want to call it, Madison Square Garden. You got Boston and Philadelphia. I get it. But the Lakers, they've got the flash. They've got the pizzazz. And then you've got Golden State. You've got the defending champs. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing they're playing each other. It's unfortunate that the way the standings held up, they couldn't be playing maybe in the Western Conference Finals. But this baby's going to go 6 or 7. There's no doubt about it. I know the NBA is hoping to God, the networks, all of them are hoping that the Lakers can make it go 6 or 7. But in my opinion, the only way the Lakers are going to make this go 6 or 7 is you got to get more consistency out of Anthony Davis. Now, when he's on, obviously he's a top 5 talent, one of the best in the league, no doubt about it. But the key word is consistency. And that guy, it's been his whole career. Either he just takes games off. It's funny is I was watching the highlights again this morning and watching the commentary, and I can't remember who brought this up, but it was very good. When he misses a couple of shots, he doesn't go for the rebounds. It's like his confidence level just takes a dumper so fast. He's not in there scrapping for those loose rebounds, following his jump shot. In game 1, when he was making a few and he got hot, yeah, he was right there. But in game 2 last night, Anthony Davis was a no-show. And not just scoring. He had 11 points. I get it. It's not like, you got to have him get 30 every game. But he wasn't following through with his, on his missed shots, going underneath, scrapping for defensive rebounds like he was in game 1. It's almost like this mentality. If he doesn't get it going right away, he's no good. And the Lakers aren't going to win a championship like that without a full effort given by Anthony Davis. They can't count on LeBron, as great as he is, and we all know he's top 5 all time. They can't count on him to carry him these whole playoffs. I mean, he'll have a good game or two when but that's why they got Anthony Davis to be the guy to take over. And when he doesn't, they're not going to do anything. And I believe that's going to be the case. And, so I don't know. The Lakers now game 3 with the Warriors coming up tomorrow night. That's going to be huge. Going to be a fun game to watch. All the stars are going to be there, and it's going to be on ABC. They got Saturday night prime time. It's going to get great numbers. But my big question, again, is what is the NBA going to do when this series is over? Is it going to be a letdown? Because you're probably, you're going to get a team that nobody, and I mean nobody's given any credit. And that's the Denver Nuggets, who right now have an opportunity to really take command of this series with the Suns. That's coming up tonight, game 3. Chris Paul is hurt. He's not going to play tonight. And boy, did it show their lack of depth on the bench. And, you got Ayton's, he's not able to overcome it. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker are going to really have to take over. Can they keep doing it 40 to 45 minutes a game? Now, I love Kevin Durant. He's a great, all the guy does is win. Now, he's been injured a little bit, obviously, but when he's in there, he gives it all and he wins. But when you've got no depth, and it's really been exposed in this series against Denver. I really like Denver's chances to come out of Phoenix with at least a split. And I was wrong. I picked Phoenix to go to the championship game and possibly win it all. But boy, oh boy, has their depth been exposed. And not having Chris Paul there is just it's another crutch. And I just don't know if they can keep it up. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out in Game 3. We'll have to wait and see on that this weekend. Maybe on Monday we'll be talking about an opportunity for a sweep for Denver or a potential for the Warriors or for the Suns to show some life. On the Eastern Conference playoffs, you got the Celtics and the 76ers out. Now everybody says, can Philly rebound tonight? This is a big game. Obviously, Game 3 is always huge. Philly got the split. They went to Boston. They got what they wanted. Not having Embiid, they were able to get 45 out of Harden, and they were able to win Game 1. He came back. They got blown out in Game 2. Was playing Embiid smart? And we talked about a little bit earlier in the show. I'm of the mindset, why not? You have the opportunity for Philadelphia to go up 2-0. Now, I know everybody said, maybe you might want to stay. You might be satisfied with just getting a split and coming out of there 1-1 and, with a potential of, keeping control of your home court. But, boy, you got an opportunity to go up 2-0 in Boston. I don't for they got blown out. It's obvious. Boston's got a little bit of momentum going up. This is going to turn into be another 6 to 7 game series, just like the Knicks and the Heat. I don't see that going any less than 6 games. I think the Heat are in a wonderful position to potentially win this series, an 8 seed going to the Eastern Conference Finals. But they've got the Knicks coming down. The Knicks, both teams have the opportunity there. I don't really have a feel for that game or that series at all. I mean, obviously, can Butler recover from his sprained ankle and be the force he was against Milwaukee and also in that opening game before he got hurt against the Knicks? That's going to be the big question. And we'll have to wait and see on that. And here's I got a big question here on this one. Why do we have such a big delay in between games in the NBA playoffs? Why are they going 3 and 4 days between games? I know it's not arena availability, but you're killing me with this. Now, I know the Florida Panthers and the Miami Heat now are going to have to kind of juggle with their schedules with both teams still in the playoffs. But, you got the momentum. You start to gain some momentum with these games, and you're going 3 and 4 days between games. Come on. And don't tell me it's travel. Traveling for these athletes is nothing like it used to be back in the day where they flew commercial. You got charters, you got, the best of accommodations. I mean, come on. You can't play every other game or every other day or maybe a third day, to accommodate TV. But that's what it's all about, accommodating television, the TV revenue. I get it. It's maddening because now you have to wait. You get a good series like this. And quite frankly, I'm surprised that the Lakers and the Warriors aren't going 4 days between games. I give them credit for going every other day, but some of these series, 3 to 4 days between games. Come on, give me a break, will you? I mean, let's get the games going. Let's get it while it's hot, while everybody's got the feel to watch these games. And I just hope the NHL doesn't follow suit and do the same thing. Go 4 days between games. That's crazy. So I hope that they don't do it. Speaking of the NBA, real quick, we touched on it just for a second. Coach Budenholzer got fired yesterday by the Bucks. He makes the 3rd coach in the last 4 years to that's won championships to get, or 3 of the 4 championship coaches in the last 4 years got fired. Nick Nurse, Budenholzer, and Frank Vogel. If this isn't a players' league, I don't know what is. I mean, was he the scapegoat? Now, I know some of his decisions maybe were a little questionable. Now, who's next for Milwaukee? And then now will he possibly go to Detroit? That would be interesting. I wouldn't be upset to see Budenholzer on the sidelines in Detroit. Now we'll have to wait and see what happens. But was he the scapegoat? I don't know. I just, the coaching in the playoffs, you don't win in the first round. You can't fire the players, but it's just, again, you don't get the run that coaches used to get. You don't get the 8 and 9 year runs unless you coach for Jerry Jones. And so, I mean, you don't get the opportunities. You don't get the time frame that you used to back in the day. You don't get a 5 year opportunity to win. Or if you win a championship, that doesn't buy you an extra 2 or 3 years anymore. It's rare. And so I just don't get it. And with Budenhauser out now, it just begs the question, what happens next year? Let's say, I don't know. Let's say if the Lakers were to win a championship and all of a sudden, they get knocked out in the playoffs in the opening round or don't make it, does Darvin Ham get fired? I mean, that's the mentality right now. It's kind of scary, isn't it? But it's in all sports. It's not just basketball. Baseball's the same way. NHL, NFL, college football. Wow. Yeah, it's nuts. Wow. So yeah, we wrap up the show. A couple of other points I want to talk about. Hunter Dickinson from the Michigan Wolverines. Finally, the dog and pony show that he's put on. That guy's been a dog and pony show at Michigan for 3 years. He finally announced his transfer destination. He's going to be a Jayhawk, Rock Talk Jayhawk. He's going to be a Kansas Jayhawk next year. God bless him. Here's my question. Juwan Howard put up with his antics. Some of the stuff he did pregame, some of the talking that he did. Just, I can never understand. Why do you fuel the fire for your opponent? Why give bulletin board material? And that's all he did for the last 2 years he was here at Michigan. Now he's going to Kansas. He's got Bill Self that's going to be his head coach. My question is Bill Self going to put up with those antics? Now, he's a good player, 19-9. I get it. Looking back, he probably should have went pro after his freshman year. He would have been a lottery pick. Now, I know he's going to make some NIL money, but those antics, are they going to outweigh his performance? I mean, is it going to be worth it? Kentucky's loaded, or Kansas is loaded. He's going to help them, no doubt about it. And he's not going to be the focal point of that offense. It's not just going to be him. Maybe that'll benefit him. Maybe that, will help him get his, I don't know, what he needs to do to get to the next level. Because I'll tell you, he might have got drafted. He might have been a lottery pick at the end of the year. I'm not sure about that. But this year, or at the end of the first round, I don't know. But I don't question it. I don't blame him for going back for one more year. But now he's a Jayhawk. Now they've got an opportunity to go a ways. He's going to hit. It's right there for him. There's no more excuses. And, the freight train that is Michigan basketball, if you want to call it that, it's hurting. It's just, the wheels are starting to come off a little bit. The shine is off, with Juwan Howard. This isn't going to help him, losing him. His own son went to the NBA. They figure he's going to be a lottery pick. I don't get it. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But good luck to Hunter Dickinson, another transfer portal guy. He probably got some good money going to Kansas. And let's be honest, that's the reality of it. It's an NIL-driven decision too. He can say what he wants. And I know he's got a good shot at winning a championship with Kansas. But you can't sit there and tell me it's not NIL-driven as well. The transfer portal's here to stay, whether you like it or not. And I can't wait to have Ryan Schuling on Wednesday. That's going to be our main topic on our show Wednesday, is going to be talking about the transfer portal and how it's affected college sports. He's out in Denver. He's based out in Denver. Ryan used to be an East Lansing guy, radio personality here in this area. He's out by Boulder, right where Coach Prime is. And he's taking the world by storm out there in Colorado. Can't wait to get his take on the pulse out there in Boulder. We're going to dive into this transfer portal talk because, like I said, it's hit home here in East Lansing. 3 starters went to the portal. 1 changed his mind, Charles Brantley, but you've got Keon Coleman and Peyton Thorne have said their goodbyes. Keon Coleman, unless he has a complete change of heart and somebody opens up the Brinks truck here in East Lansing to get him the money, he's gone. And so that is the landscape of college sports right now. And to me, it's kind of like MLB, where there's no salary cap, so it's like the wild, wild west. And I just don't see the good in it. I know it's the wave of the future, and you got to change with it. I get it, but I just don't know if I like it. Don't know if I like it at all. So that's going to be our main subject on Wednesday. Can't wait to dive into that. It should be a fun conversation with Ryan Schuling here on our show on Wednesday. Lastly, tonight, or this morning rather, I'm still getting used to the morning shows, which we will be on, by the way, again next week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern time here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. I invite you to follow us on there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, by the way, Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. You can watch all of our episodes on archive if you want, that we have here, the Captain Lou Extravaganza. One of our last topic I want to talk about this morning, kind of some bad news in the world of hockey, especially here in the Detroit area. Peter Klima passed away yesterday over in Czechoslovakia, 58 years old. Kind of hit home. He's my age. I'll be 58 in September. Peter Klima came up. He defected, came over and played with the Red Wings from 1985 until 1989 or 1990 rather, midway through the year. Then he got moved over to Edmonton. Kind of a tragic tale, up and down career with Detroit. He was electric back with those teams back in the late 80s. He had 30 goals one year, 37 another. He had 25 with Detroit in 88, 89. Had some run-ins. Obviously, alcohol was a demon of his. He had some problems off the ice, and it haunted him pretty much throughout his career in Detroit. Then he went over to Edmonton and had a few great years. And, of course, he's got the record in the NHL where he scored in triple overtime in the Stanley Cup final and for Edmonton and helped win a championship with the Oilers. He had 40 goals in 90-91 with Edmonton. He had 32 goals in 92-93. He was a mainstay for them. Then went to Tampa, had 28 goals. Kind of, again, an up-and-down career. He ended up playing professionally overseas and here in the United States for 20 years. He was coaching his kids for a while. One of his sons played in the NHL with the Tucson Roadrunners. Just a tragic tale. 58 years old, way too young for anybody to go. You hate to see something like that. He was found in his home over in Czechoslovakia yesterday, or a couple days ago, whatever it was now. And again, 58 years old. Our heart and soul goes out. Our prayers go out to his family, to his kids. Just a tragedy. And again, he played a long career in the NHL. I think obviously it could have been better. He had alcohol issues, like we mentioned. I remember him getting suspended by the Red Wings. He came back with his heartfelt apology and all that. Just was never the same after that. And he had 5 goals, I believe, to begin the year with the Red Wings in 89-90. Then got moved over to Edmonton, and he resurrected his career for a while there, and he did really well in Edmonton. Won a Stanley Cup, as we mentioned. But he was electrifying to watch back in the 80s. When goal scoring was at its premium. Boy, fun watching him with a young Steve Yzerman. They had some fun teams. We talked about it Wednesday with the Red Wings, making the playoffs in the Norris division and then playing Edmonton a couple of years in a row when Edmonton was in their heyday, in the conference finals. But he wasn't there to be part of the Red Wings when they made their Stanley Cup runs back in the late 90s and into the 2000s. But he was a staple with the Jacques Demers coach teams back in the mid to late 80s. It was, again, so much fun to watch him. He was electrifying. He was quick. He was talented. Maybe some say a talent that wasn't at his full potential in Detroit. But it's still sad to see Peter Klima pass away at the age of 58, gone way too long. So, well, hey, wow, this hour has flown by. What fun we had here on a Free-for-All Friday. We want to thank our guest, Vince Stover from the Sports Stove podcast. Watch him on Sunday nights and Wednesday nights, as he mentioned. And he's on 2 to 3 days a week as well. And we want to thank you for taking time just tonight on Captain Extravaganza here on the Captain Lou Sports Network. We will be back on Monday, 10 o'clock Eastern time in the morning. We hope you get a chance to stop on by and watch us. We want to thank the folks at Belly Up Sports for letting us be a part of their network. It's always a blast. It's great being associated with a good crew of guys. So we want to thank everybody there as well. All right, that's going to do it. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy the sports. Enjoy the great weather. Get out and have fun and enjoy life. Yours truly, Captain Lou, saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Good day, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. So long.